really doing it now. Ooh-wee. We started the show, Rick. Oh my gosh.
It's not the impression that counts, but the heart of it. As long as you feel like you're with that character, it doesn't have to sound exactly right. Just like McConaughey.
It's not the plagiarism that counts, it's the heart behind it.
If it feels really good when you play that guitar, it doesn't matter if it sounds good. You just have to hit it hard.
Yeah, it's all about you.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey guys, how you doing on this Sunday afternoon?
Good.
Mediocre.
One day before our show comes out.
You were really skating under the wire. That's the phrase, right?
Next, this will be a live show.
Skating under the wire.
This will be a live show, and then you'll have to start sending them back in time because you did them late.
Yeah, well,
so it'll be like Tuesday, and you'll be like, well, we'll have to send this back to Monday. Make sure it comes out on time.
Yeah, we need that technology. Our friend Stefan is back.
Hey.
It's the three-peat, right?
Right on.
The old turkey.
Yeah, you guys are just losing creativity.
The turkey? Is that a bowling reference?
I think
like
so.
Isn't that three strikes in a row?
Yeah.
Isn't a hat trick also mean three?
A hat trick?
Yeah.
Sounds
I've never heard
inappropriate.
That one. Okay, great. Yeah, Stefan's here.
Hey.
Oh, he's got a banjo today. You've had a different instrument every time, right?
Yeah. I'm well versed in playing a lot of things mediocrely.
Can you play My Dog Has Fleas?
That's what this is.
No, it sounds this sounds better than My Dog Has Fleas. What chord is that?
I don't know. I just
sounds
found
ominous. Oh, really?
I could slide
this
up
is
here.
the darkest banjo I've ever heard. Andy,
Yes, Josh.
grab that thing and, well, Stefan, play a real uppity ditty,
Okay.
a little happy one. And Andy, sing a song about apples.
Oh,
Sing a kid's song, make up
apples,
some.
they grow on the tree. You are growing like the apples, but you don't have seeds in you. You will die after the apple, after you ingest it. You will live a long time, longer than the seasons, but you will die, just like everything dies. Was that good?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And your body will shrivel and they'll bury you in the ground and the cover of the trees of the roof.
The maggots in your eyes and hey, speaking of
And the
scary
nutrients
things,
in your corpse will feed the apple tree.
speaking of that kind of stuff, did you guys ever read those books, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
Yeah.
The only reason I say that was because we were talking about kids and death, but there was a picture of Donald Trump I saw someone post this week, and it looked exactly like one of the characters from the illustrations from that book. I was like, oh yeah, and I'd forgotten what it was called. I really want to actually buy a copy because I remember just looking at the illustrations and thinking they were so freaking cool and terrifying.
Yeah. My wife has a copy, and I'll read it to her occasionally.
You'll read it to her?
Yeah. Like as we're going to bed, like we'll be in bed, I'll read her. We were going through Bambi, and she's like, if Bambi's mom dies tonight, don't read it. And I'm like, I don't know how to tell when Bambi's mom's going to die.
Wait, what? You guys were watching
Bambi's a
Bambi?
novel?
No, we're reading Bambi. Yeah, Bambi's a novel. It was written in the 40s.
Oh.
Is Thumper in it?
Not yet. We didn't get very far because every time, like, Jackie either falls asleep. Jackie's my wife. Jackie either falls asleep or says, don't read anymore because I can't handle Bambi's mom dying. So we just, like, have to stop. Based on
Even
based
though
on
she knows
every
it's coming and knows it happens.
Yeah, but so in the book, the bond between Bambi and his mom is much stronger. It's not like a
Ooh,
30.
so it's even more intense.
Yeah, we're like 6 chapters in, and Bambi's mom is still alive. I don't know where Bambi's dad is. They're just Bambi and his mom are romping around in a meadow, and they see butterflies, and
Oh boy.
yeah.
So how did you come to the decision to read this book together? And how does an entire novel get written about deer? Deer plural.
I can't answer the second question until we finished it. It's actually written really poetically without being cheesy. Like it's just written really descriptively, and like it talks a lot about just the way the ground smells, because you're discovering the forest as Bambi's discovering. So it's actually written well. But to answer your first question,
acorns on the ground were like nuggets of joy, and Bambi's droppings resembled the nuggets. I'm just kidding. So it's wow. That is a book I would definitely never read, but I'm glad that you're enjoying it.
Yeah, she got it for Christmas from her sister, and it's like an original 1940s copy, so it's got a really cool cover and illustrations, and it's like a nice, but it smells and feels good.
You should sell it.
You got that original Bambi shit.
It's the OG Bambi.
Andy, what animal novels would you read ever?
Animal? What's the classic novel about the wolf?
Novels about animals. Okay, here we go. Call of the Wild.
Call of the Wild. That's what I'm thinking of. I remember
that
liking
actually
that
is
one.
a really good one. Jack London is
that
badass.
one's pretty brutal.
Yeah. Okay, how about this? Black Beauty. Would you read it?
Air Bud, the book. Read that one.
The adaptation.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I used to love that movie. Believe it or not. It was so intense when the kid was getting basketballs thrown at him by the coach, like some domestic violence happening. But then Air Bud comes in and is like,
does a mice
today.
and men count?
Ooh.
There is a little mouse in it, but he's dead and he gets thrown into a field.
Hey, spoiler alert.
Jeez.
He's dead from the beginning. It's not like Green Mile where he's running around like interacting with the he's just anyway.
Another spoiler alert. Jeez.
Mr. Jangles.
Okay, so you Googled books with animals.
Uh-huh.
And did
you got
want
Old
to keep
Yeller
going
in
down
here.
there? Oh, the Hunt for
Velveteen
Red
Rabbit.
October.
Dewey, the adorable cat that lived in a library.
Wait, I said Hunt for Red October. That's about a submarine, isn't it?
No, that's about rockets.
What?
No, Hunt for Red October is definitely about a submarine.
No,
wait, what am I thinking of? There's something with the word red. Where the red fern grows.
Oh.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's Wind in the Willows is another.
Redwall.
You're thinking of Wonderwall by Oasis.
Oh, right. Anyway,
we
here's
got
Wonderwall.
Stuart Little. That's actually a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't want to talk about this anymore. What do you want to talk about, Andy? You had something that sounded like...
Well, yeah. So this week I started listening to a podcast called Missing Richard Simmons. Have you guys heard of it?
No, but
No.
I do miss him.
Well, the concept of the podcast is that Richard Simmons dropped off the face of the earth and is holed up in his house for like the past couple years. And
Whoa, but he's a pretty active tweeter, isn't he?
Yeah.
well, not anymore. Like he's like the tweets are being rehashed. Like the YouTube, like I guess there's a New Year's video that he put up this year, but it was from 3 years ago. It was the same
weird.
video. And so basically the guy who's doing the podcast is somewhat friends with Richard Simmons, and he's trying to figure out what happened to him, like why he's holed up in his house and like stopped doing everything in his life.
Whoa.
And it's incredibly interesting, but it brought up to me the idea of like what artists, well, not even artists in his case, I don't know what he'd call himself, but like what he...
So to be clear, sorry, no one has seen him out in public for several years?
Yeah. Like he used to have a thing called Slimmons, which was his like workout place where people would go in person, and he taught it. And he like abruptly stopped that. But we don't need to get in all the details of it. I guess part of it is maybe there's like some elder abuse potentially going on with his maid.
Like he's abusing his maid?
No, like the maid is abusing him.
Oh,
Okay.
geez.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it got me thinking about what people who are celebrities or artists or anything, like what do they actually owe to people? And because part of, like, I looked at the iTunes reviews of this podcast, and some people were saying like, this is not right for this guy to be prying into his life and trying to figure out what happened. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it made me, I mean, I obviously think about it from an artist's perspective, because that whole thing of like, what do you actually owe to people who enjoy your art in terms of your personal life or whatever? It's like, is this podcast going too far into Richard Simmons' life? Like, that seems like if he's gone off the map, he obviously wants to be left alone. Let's like, don't start an entire podcast based on trying to find him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just, and then it made me think of, and I pulled up this article. This is somewhat tangentially related. Do you guys remember that hermit who was found a couple years ago? He was living in the wild for 27 years, and he was like found and arrested.
Yeah. Was he the guy that was breaking into like campgrounds and
Yes.
stealing food? And that's how they found him, is like the warden for the campground, like
Right.
booby trapped a fridge basically, right?
Yeah, I think so. But it said he'd been living in the wild for 27 years before he was arrested. And the reason I connect these two things is like, because it seems like people remove themselves from the world that they're in. And then because of systems and voyeurism, potentially people throw them back into the life that they think they should be having. And I don't know, that whole conversation is very interesting to me. And even I was talking to you, Stefan, earlier about depression that I've experienced just this past week, and my desire to want to remove myself from at least the whole public aspect of, social media, whatever, even this podcast. I'm like, oh, I've got to go talk out of my ass for an hour and a half. And
Yeah, it looks really gross over here when Andy talks.
yeah, I got my mic right up there. So I don't know. I've just been thinking about, like, is it good that that this guy is making this podcast about Richard Simmons? Like, is it good that we arrested this guy who was living in the woods for 27 years and stealing bread occasionally and threw him into real life? Like, I don't know. I don't think so, potentially. And I don't know. It just makes me again think about, like, as an artist, what do I owe to people? And I kind of err on the side of nothing.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you put those two guys together, because one was in the limelight for his career, and the other was completely gone, and they flipped almost, like they had opposite stories.
Yes.
Where Richard Simmons, was really prominent and on talk shows. I mean, he was even comic relief on other shows, and and this other guy was completely isolated and brought into the limelight. And I think I agree with you that it's like, you don't owe anyone more than like what you've given. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
it's like you put that out in the world, and I mean, it's different if you make yourself like a guru, or it's like, hey, like, I found this great live life, and you can maybe make a case for Richard Simmons where he's trying to get people into shape and is kind of an icon, and then just disappears. But it's like, I don't think we have a right to know what's going on. And I mean, it could be easier, even like fun to speculate, because Richard Simmons is such an out there guy that he doesn't seem like someone sitting in this room. But when you break it down and like treat him like a person, yeah, it does feel a little bit weird. But then we do that with like every celebrity, though.
I know.
mean, that's the driving force. And I don't know. I don't think it's right, or I don't even really find it interesting for us to be voyeuristic with celebrities. And I know there's a whole market for that, but
well, and to be clear, like, I'm going to keep listening to this podcast because I would like to know what happened to Richard Simmons.
Yeah.
And that the idea of someone being that famous and then just completely pulling back is so fascinating to me, because that's something that I see myself potentially doing.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'll ever be at that level or whatever, but I'm fascinated by those abrupt changes that people do in terms of how they live their life. That seems, I don't know, that's just fascinating. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know what, and again, if it's something like he is being abused by his made or whatever, then sure, like it'd probably be very good for him to get that sorted out and have someone help him.
Yeah.
But if he just said, hey, I'm done with all this, please leave me alone, then it seems like that should be honored. I don't know.
Yeah. But he, like, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it, but it doesn't seem like he's done that, right? Like, he's just disappeared.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And the guy doing the podcast, like, talked to his publicist, and the publicist was like, yeah, he's not doing anything right now. Just like stonewall everything. So I don't know. It's interesting, but I don't know if I should feel bad for being interested in it. Like, leave the poor guy alone. You know what I mean? I would want people to leave me alone in that scenario, assuming nothing bad was being done to me.
Yeah, it is curious. The possibility of the elder abuse you mentioned makes me think of Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. He had a physician who kept him over medicated for years, and he basically was like stuck inside, and he monitored what he ate, and just a crazy abuse and unethical treatment until finally one of his brothers and this woman who had kind of befriended Brian Wilson got him out of it, and that guy went to jail, I believe, the physician. But anyway, yeah, if it's a scenario like that could be scary, where it's behind closed doors and nobody is aware that it might have something to do with medication, or like who knows,
right?
That's scary stuff.
But do you guys think that with someone like Richard Simmons or any celebrity, that, like, assuming he made the choice willingly to drop off the face of the earth, like, what does he owe to people? Does he owe an explanation to say, hey, here's what I'm doing?
Oh.
Or anything like that? What do you think he owes to people?
I don't think he owes anything, but it might, if it is like, hey, I just am done, I think it could be really healthy to say I'm done,
right.
And even if it's like, a paragraph of like, thank you so much for the support over all the years,
right.
I'm deciding to finish up, like, because I don't, and again, I don't think that's owed, but I think it could just be healthy for everyone, and then you don't have these podcasts or whatever.
Right.
People speculating like he's just been dead for years and he's a robot that's like stuffed with sawdust and like whatever else. Like, you could start a whole podcast on that too. But
and some people, some would say to, I don't know, actors who drop off, like Gene Hackman, although he did kind of formally announce it, that he was retiring from acting, and I mean, Jack Nicholson hasn't done a movie in a number of years, and it sounds like he might be done. But where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, that people tend to just be like, what happened to that guy? I guess he's gone. Or, if someone hasn't done something new within the past 2 years,
right,
it's like immediately dismissed. Usually that's maybe by like a younger or more immature person, of just like, oh, this artist, this band hasn't put anything out in 2 years. I guess they're broken up. Or,
right.
People have been speculating that about Tool. Pretty much every album, because they take a while to record, and it's like, oh yeah, they're broken up, man. And it's like, no, I don't think they are. They just don't really say anything.
But that's interesting too, because how do you get to a spot where you can do your thing without saying anything? You know what I mean? That's compelling to me to figure that out. I mean, like a Radiohead or a Boards of Canada, where you're just off the map for years, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, here's a new album, and then you're gone again. That sounds really nice to me, selfishly.
Yeah. And to have people still come back and care, and know that you're at a level where you can present it and it will catch fire on its own.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm for sure not there. But kind of the other reason I was thinking about that this week is because like I mentioned earlier, I've had some more extreme depression this past week than I've had in a long time, and a lot of it was financial based. Looking at short-term stuff and seeing negative dollars in my checking account, and also seeing that basically all my streams of income that I've depended on for the past few years are all going down slowly or quickly. So that's to tough. And so, I mean, this week, and my lowest point, I was telling Megan, is like, I should look for jobs now before it gets bad. And part of that's financial, and part of that's just like, that seems really nice. Like, I could pull back from everything and not have the pressure on it, and kind of, I don't know, it just seems like I could maybe potentially do music in a more pure way. If that doesn't sound so silly, but I don't know. That's kind of where that stuff. So, and I was, thinking about the poor guy. Like, that story of the guy in the woods has stuck with me ever since I heard it, because, you guys know me. I like those kind of stories of people doing things alone.
You like people that don't exist in the real world.
Oh, totally. And so yeah, the Simmons, like you said, the Simmons thing and this guy are just kind of the same story, but opposite examples, if that makes sense. So that's just where my mind's been this week.
So we were supposed to record this show on Tuesday night. Did you cancel because of that depression or being down about this stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a big part of it, because I didn't know. I didn't want to be that person on the podcast and just be so. Yeah. And I feel a little better today, especially because some money I was waiting for that kept getting delayed, which is why I got screwed, posted. And I've been working my ass off on this studio all weekend. So I feel like I'm accomplishing something. So yeah, I feel better today, but that stuff is still lingering, if that makes sense.
And talking about getting a job, was that mostly out of discouragement, or are you kind of considering it?
I feel like I've had that thought quite often in the past couple of years. It hasn't really gone away.
Because you've worked outside of a job for how long now? Like 7 years? Or
no, it's been 4 and a half. I quit November 2012.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think if I went back to having a job, I would appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just in a weird spot, and I I've talked about it before, but the headache of putting financial pressure on your creative passion is just a weird thing. Mm-hmm. And the more I do it, the more it seems like it'd be nice to remove that pressure from it. But then again, I go down the line of thinking, it's like, well, what kind of job would be good for me? It's like, well, I'd still like to have a bunch of flexibility, and I'd want it to be part-time, and I want to be able to leave whenever I want. And then I'm like, well, maybe I don't actually want a job, if I actually start thinking about
because everything you just listed is the reasons that people try to be self-employed or start a business or whatever. I mean, I could see the benefits in having a job, even for just the base of like creativity, because you're taking your mind off of it, and it's like, at least for me, like I tend to have a lot of ideas when I'm doing a task that's relatively mindless but is productive. Does that make sense? Like where it's like, I'm at work just cranking out whatever, like making gelato. So we don't have to talk about it. Hey, I finished my album. We talked about a couple podcasts ago that you had me back on once I finished it.
So the first time you're on, we said that you should have it finished by January.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. We could we just focus on the good?
Okay, it's March now.
Yeah, we recorded this back in January. This is an older.
This is from the archives.
Yeah. But yeah, I was looking at it, and I pulled up one of the audio files because Andy, you did guitar on one of the tracks.
Oh yeah.
And I looked at the date on it, and it was February 2015. So it was like over 2 years ago, and that like wasn't even the first song that I had written for the album. It was like the 5th one. So anyway, it took way longer than it should have. Yeah.
So what'd you learn?
Well, I learned I learned a lot, but part of it was I think I just had way too much like life stuff going on, and I didn't just sit down and knock it out, because I sat down to knock it out and finished the album in like 4 days where if I were to do it, I could have done it a while ago. But
boom.
I mean, part of it was just making time for it, and when I had time for it, like making sure I just got my butt in the chair and started working on it.
Right.
But I mean, I think next album I want to try to record in like 2 weeks, like demo everything out, like kind of do a little more traditional, and then just knock it out all at once so it's done.
Right, because last time you were on, we were comparing your 30-day guy experience where you did a whole album in 30 days.
Yeah.
Versus, as you just said, over 2 years.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're trying to get back to that first mindset a little bit.
Yeah. And I wish I could say like, oh, I spent 2 years on it, so it's this amazing album that has all this depth and like nuance, but it doesn't. Like I could have probably written this album in 30 days if I really tried.
Right.
So
you should get next time Andy or I or both in the room while you're making it and just knock it out in a short period.
Yeah. I can just cut a chair in my butt or around my butt, and you can just slap and be like, come on, go, stop. And just keep me going.
Josh and I'll be the producers. We'll just stand around eating chips and giving you comments and telling you to not stop.
Oh, thanks. I have some chips right here.
You know, about the job stuff.
Yeah, let's go back there.
Okay.
Well, so I feel that about every 3 months, it seems like I get back on this cycle of thinking that I need to look for a new job. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think 3 times in the past year, this is related. Emmy and I have considered selling our house in Denver.
Right.
Because it's gone. Siri is talking to me.
Siri thought you said, "Hey Siri."
We've considered selling our house because we live in Denver. The market is crazy. It's gained. It is literally almost doubled in value, which is insane.
Yowzers.
But, exactly. So we're sitting on all this money, and we're currently in financial dire straits. I don't know. We're not in trouble, but we could be in a few months. Like we're not doing well because Emmy can't work. So anyway, all these things relate to money.
Yeah.
And I probably have the skill sets to do a different job and make more. And my job doesn't. I mean, nobody ever got rich working for my company.
Right.
So, but job hunting is the most daunting and discouraging thing I've ever done. And I don't know, I start and I almost immediately stop because either the job descriptions just are insane and they're these long words and convoluted descriptions that just don't even make any sense. And I don't know if I'm just a big wimp or if I'm thinking, I kind of basically look at all of them and I go, okay, I'm not qualified for this actually. And so I don't even apply or don't even send my resume, or I have applied to certain places and even followed up and have never gotten an interview. And I don't know. It's just, I'm in a weird in-between because I'm trying, as you know, and as we've talked about, like trying to get these things going to eventually quit my job and just do this. But it's like in the in-between, I mean, it might be 5 years still or more before anything I'm doing now actually becomes a substantial income.
Right.
And yeah, I'm just in a weird place, but having to hunt for a job because of our money is currently running out isn't a very it's not a healthy or like level-headed place to look for a job.
Because you need more money? That seems like not
well,
unreasonable.
I mean, there's like no, it's a good reason, but I mean, there's a sort of panic attached to that.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have to get a job before the money runs out or whatever? Like
sort of, yeah.
Don't want to settle for something that might be a nightmare 3 months down the road.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess at the heart of it, I know that all was not very interesting, but just I feel like I'm specifically bad at looking for jobs, or I'm just so lacking in self-confidence that I can't even bring myself to do it. And I mean, my friend Nate, this is the last thing I'll say on this and then you guys can talk, but my friend Nate encouraged me that he's like, dude, you've worked for the same place altogether for almost 10 years. Most people your age graduated college and they've had 6 jobs since then that were 2 years apiece. And I mean, there's some value to that, I suppose, sticking around. But then the cynical part of me is like, well, did I just stay because it was comfortable and easy to stay? Right. And that actually I could be making, you know, like $20,000 more a year somewhere else and be happier overall. I don't know. Not happier because of money, happier because of the position.
Sure.
Well, that was just a weird thing.
That was going to be my question. Do you want? Okay. So if you could get another job that was $20,000 a year more, but had no increase in your, like, you didn't care about it. Basically, it didn't mean as much to you as even the current job you have. Would you do that or no?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So even if it wasn't as fulfilling as
Yeah. At this point, I'm not as concerned about that. Like, I think as long as it's not a horrible position, I think I could be content elsewhere.
What would it take for you to have, like, pursue that more? Would you have to be in more financial of a bad spot?
Perhaps. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like even then I'd really have trouble with it. And I just don't understand that about myself, why I view it as such a daunting and almost impossible task to seek these things out and have it actually go anywhere. Like it all feels like a wasted effort pretty much, because it's like I'm defeated from the start almost. So I don't know. If any of our listeners have any helpful thoughts, email me.
Or if you have any cool jobs.
You know. But I would imagine a lot of people feel in a similar position of that sort of discouragement and the daunting task of job hunting.
Oh, sure. I'm just curious if you'd feel, I mean, your fulfillment, you're looking years ahead, like you said, for wanting stuff with writing and potentially movies to work out. But I just wonder what reasonably for any human being, how much they could take in terms of a 9-to-5 that isn't fulfilling, even despite that stuff, you know? Because I had a well-paying job and it was not fulfilling whatsoever. And the money seemed really cool at first, and then it wore off somewhat quickly. It's like, I can't. That doesn't make up for how bad I feel in this job.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of a unique generation in the sense that, like, our parents before us worked because they needed to feed us. Like, it was very utilitarian. It wasn't so they can, like, have some side project or, like, fulfill their creative dreams. Like, the mindset, I think, has shifted quite a bit in our generation, where it's like we have so many opportunities and we're kind of told that, like, hey, if we put our head down and work or, like, explore different areas, we can kind of have a man, my brain's just skipping around a lot. That we can have, like, a more fulfilling life. Whereas, like, I would say our parents, and especially, like, our grandparents, just having a job was good enough for most of them, you know, whereas our generation, I think there's a general unrest where it's like, I want to be doing more. I want to be doing something that has value, like things that maybe even fit into, like, what would be considered, like, humanitarian or like creating beautiful art to have an impact. So we have a pressure where it's like, we could, all of us in here could work jobs that could give enough food for our family to pay rent and pay bills. But we might not necessarily be as fulfilled. So there's this weird tension and pressure we're dealing with as well. Yeah.
And I feel like that's absolutely true. And honestly, more of a detriment than a positive, I think.
Really?
That I almost feel that it would be better if we were reverted back to just you do your job. And I mean, it's a weird tension, because obviously very good things can be done because of that, but I think on overall it's creating more discontentment and lack of peace and thankfulness for one's job.
I'm just curious, do you see that in any sort of hole, like in our culture, or is that just how you feel about this stuff?
Oh no, I definitely feel it, especially in Denver. Hear it said, and I mean, people are constantly talking about just I don't know, just that their jobs are never good enough, or I've had those friends here who every year or even every 9 months they're going somewhere else, because it's, that other job over there is just 2% better, or they're doing something for the world or giving back, or
so maybe to distill it down, like our generation is looking for jobs that have such a fulfillment that maybe doesn't even exist, whereas like our parents' generation
I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist,
right? And our parents' generation didn't have that at all, and they were just like, hey, I need to do this thing from 9 to 5 to be able to fund the rest of my life. And that's just how life is.
Yeah. And maybe that's like kind of a depressing way to think about it or look at it. Maybe it was depressing in their shoes, but it feels like it's not much better in our current shoes.
Well, but if you're resigned to the fact, or maybe not resigned, but if you're looking at it such that it's like, hey, this is just necessary, I got to do a good job, save for my retirement or whatever, and then you can really make the most of everything outside of that. That sounds, if your brain can let you do that, that sounds great. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't, having the taste of this life that I have now would be very hard. To be completely honest, it'd be very hard if I just had a boss now, period. I'm so used to being like, hey, I'm going on vacation this week. I didn't tell anybody. I just did it, So that would be hard to go back. And that maybe is like, it could, like you said, it could be to my detriment, especially if something bad happens and I have to get a job. And then I'm just like, I don't even know which way it would go. I could potentially feel better in it than I ever have because of the pressure off of this thing that I like to do, or it would just be even worse than it ever was. I don't honestly know which it would be at this point.
Yeah. And Emmy often reminds me that like the point of life is also not to find ultimate satisfaction and fulfillment in one's job.
Right.
And that those people who are seeking that out, probably without even realizing it, like, they're not ever going to find it there. It's never going to be good enough. But I mean, that's true about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Emmy is a wise woman.
Yeah.
She is the best, honestly. She's a very good counterbalance to me. I can't imagine being this age and living alone.
Right.
I'd like, and thinking that all my thoughts are true and not having someone else to be like, nope, that one is not correct, Joshua.
What? I wonder what you would be like if you were desert island situation. Like, do you think you could make it?
It'd be bad. It'd be real bad. Because I entered my rebellious stage post-marriage, and now I'm still kind of in it, but I'm coming out of the rebellion because I'm realizing most of those rebellions.
What does that mean? What are you talking about?
Little hell,
just
kids feeling rebellious.
Just I was such a little good boy growing up, like never smoked, drank, had sex, all the like the bad things that kids do in high school. I stayed far away from that, and even into college years, just never, just wasn't interested in that. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, around age 25 or so,
you're just like, fuck it, I'm a bad boy now.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, it'd be bad if I wasn't married.
And what does it mean that you're coming out of it? Like, you were like, okay, I've experienced these things, and now I'm like,
Well, and it's not even necessarily the experience and like I'm over it. I'm just realizing, okay, there's a reason that like these places don't take me anywhere good.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay, yeah, I have tasted it and I've now tasted why it's not okay to indulge in. So I'm going to stop.
And that seems valuable. Like,
Yeah.
that's like, I remember I've only been throw up drunk like twice, and they were both on accident. But, you know,
you tripped and a bottle of whiskey fell in your mouth.
glug, 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 glug. I couldn't not. The first time was because it was the first time I had a barley wine beer, and I just got a growler of it. I was like, this tastes really good, and I just had a lot of it, and it's like 13%. But anyway, the reason I say it is because I'm sort of glad that like, I think there's a lot of people who are just black and white. It's like, oh, if you're drunk, that's bad. Drunk equals bad. I'm like, well, I'm glad I experienced it because it was terrible, horrible. I felt terrible the next morning. It's like, I don't want to do that again. I'm glad I know what that feels like at that level.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be there ever again. That's
Right.
like a valuable piece of information to have, or valuable experience, you know?
Right.
I don't really see anything wrong with that. So
Yeah. 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 And the other one is, this is, I mean, you guys know this, but this is fairly personal to share on the show, but just like, I've had periods of being really interested in what it would be like to sleep with another person. Because I mean, Emmy is the only one I've ever had sex with. We didn't have sex until after marriage and whatever. So, and then in 2012, when I almost slept with a coworker, it was like very much coming out of that rebellion of just like, I want to know what this is like. And like, I know it's bad. I know I'll probably regret it, but I don't care. She's attractive and I want to do it anyway. And I tried to make that happen, and that crashed and burned. And thankfully, I believe God kept me from that happening, because I would obviously hugely regret it. But now that really isn't a desire, not nearly like it was. And I at that time, if a scenario, well, I don't know, it's hard to say, but that's like a shitty reality that I think will always kind of a little bit be there. But I hope that if an occasion ever arises, that I just can walk away and say no, because I know that the regret of that and the problems it would cause would be nowhere near balanced with whatever momentary pleasure might come from it. But so I guess that's
right.
The rebellion thing. I don't know how I got talking about that, but
it's because I asked you about it. That's why.
oh, rad. Sweet, yeah.
So, Josh, do you think? Okay, never mind. I'm going to back up a little bit. So recently, your sister married my brother here in New Mexico.
Whoa, you guys are related.
Yay!
Great.
No, it's cool.
I know. That's why I said great.
Yeah, it's kind of, anyway. So we had the wedding here in New Mexico, and we were opening gifts the day after the wedding. So like all the families were there, and I think I told you this, Josh. I don't know.
I feel like I don't know what's coming next.
Okay,
so
good.
Maybe not.
So your mom walks up, and your mom's, real friendly. And she's like, I just want to say thank you for being friends with Josh. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. I mean, it's not like it's not.
Oh boy. Okay.
Not,
now I know where this is going.
Okay. She's like, I want to thank you for being friends with Josh. And I was like, oh yeah, of course I'm friends with Josh. I like Josh. Like, and she's like, he is just in a really bad place right now, and he needs like good influences. And I was like, oh, and I was like, I think, and I told her, I was like, I think he's might be doing better than you think he is, or something along those lines. Where I was like, he might not be out there as you think he is. And she's like, well, I mean, I really appreciate you being friends. I can't. She used a specific word, but it was along those lines.
She used fuckface.
Yeah. But I was just thinking, I was like, well, one, your mom thinks that I must have it all together. And it's like, at this point, I hadn't been to church in like 2.5 months, if that's what her gauge of like good influence is. But then I also thought, I was like, I probably agree with Josh on a lot of things in life. So it's like, maybe I'll let your mom think that I'm a good influence, and I don't know. But it was just weird, because I was like, I don't know what to say to this, because I'm not, I don't think I'm like any better, like in a better place. But
Sure.
Right. But the question is, like, does your mom think you're going to hell? That was my question. And that's, I say that like kind of jokingly, but also kind of seriously. Like, is she like genuinely worried about you?
I don't think she thinks that. But yeah, she's worried about me. And I mean, and to some degree, rightfully so, I guess. I think the main things she was thinking of are my over drinking and my like kind of losing faith, which that second one is, I'm kind of coming out of that, and we've hashed that out on this show. But yeah, I mean,
it's probably not in the way she thinks it is, or that she could even maybe understand. I don't know.
Sure. And I mean, so Stefan, you're not the first friend that she's done that with, actually. And I don't mind.
She's
like,
never done that to me.
Yeah.
Am I the bad influence?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably. Emmy says you are.
Oh no!
Wow.
Emmy's a wise woman, so she might be right.
Well, this will be our last podcast,
All right.
boys and girls.
Hold on. Oh, I was gonna say, I kind of get it. I mean, I don't know what it's like. You know, what if when Olive is 25, she's like clearly struggling with alcohol and doesn't think she believes in God anymore? Like, regardless of where I am at that age, that's got to be hard to watch. Your own kid are like straying from the values that you kind of brought them up with.
Yeah.
So I get it. But yeah, I think she thinks it's more intense than it actually is. But yeah, but I'm not interested in going to those places with her. Like, I kind of just wish that she would leave me alone and not really pay attention to what I'm doing in my life. Because if I'm being bad, then I will eventually straighten out, is sort of my, man, maybe I should cut this out. This is pretty, oh well. I don't think she listens to our show, so it's fine. But
My mother-in-law.
it's just a weird thing. Yeah, go ahead.
My mother-in-law listens to the show, and
What?
yeah, well, because so like the first episode I was on, I posted on Facebook and stuff, and so she went and listened to it, and I introduced her to podcasts because I thought she would like Serial, and she did. So I taught her how to listen to them, which sounds really demeaning, but I mean that she didn't know they existed before that. But,
Right.
But we were
Sorry.
I was driving across town the other night with him, and she said, I listened to that podcast, and I didn't like how they talked to you. They were being really mean. I was like, what are you talking about? And then she said, when Josh brought up saying the word like, and then you couldn't stop saying it, and then everyone was laughing, and I was just thinking, like, oh, I was like, the way she's understanding it is like totally different than what was actually there. And so I know, anyway, what made me think of that is just, I think you bring up a really good point, Josh. There's kind of the generational thing, is like, we aren't 20 years down the road with our kids grown up, just kind of talking about life. And there's a lot of even cultural differences, like the way we're brought up and the way we see the world is different than the way our parents see it. And it's just kind of weird to think about, even though we spent, 18 to 20 years or whatever in their household, like they don't, they may not fully understand us, and we may not fully understand them as far as values go. So I think everybody thinks their parents are like behind the times too. And I don't think that's necessarily fair, because I don't know, we're going to be on the flip side of that someday.
Right.
Yeah. I have to not think about that, because it freaks me out a little bit. Like, I don't ever want to be out of the loop or lose my cultural relevance, or not my awareness of culture, I should say.
Right.
But I probably will. I'll probably think I'm cool, and my kids will think I'm way behind. I'm an old dad, and I listen to dad rock.
You sure do.
That's what they'll think.
Dad Rock featuring Pitbull playing at the Pepsi Stadium.
I feel about ready for a sponsor.
Okay. Great. Here we go.
Nailed it.
Great.
I always wear t-shirts, and sometimes I get tired of putting them on and off and having to wash them and fold them.
Right.
So what do you guys think about it?
Well, wouldn't it be great if someone invented a shirt that you didn't have to take on and off? Like some sort of
And that you didn't have to clean.
Sure, some sort of proprietary, self-cleaning, microbiome infested cotton shirt.
Yeah, the shirt of the future.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now someone has
What?
done that.
Really?
Our sponsor today is Take Me to the Moon Shirt Technology. That's their full company name. Take Me to the Moon Shirt Technology. And they've partnered with
TM.
NASA.
It's almost Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. NASA.
They've partnered with NASA to get the fabric of spacesuits.
Oh, this is like one of those inventions where they did it in space first, and then they're like, "Oh, this would actually be good for normies."
So, quick question: are the shirts hydrophobic?
I don't know what that word means.
That means
Scared of water.
they can't get wet.
Yes, they can't get wet.
Are
They're
they
homophobic or whatever you just said.
Are they agoraphobic?
They can't go outside.
Many of the phobes apply.
Transphobic?
Oh my gosh.
But this thing, you can't get it wet. You can get in the shower. You can get in a vehicular man shower, and it'll just bounce off the old water. And how it cleans itself is they took the technology of a dog's mouth, which cleanses itself every 7 seconds or something like that, and they put the DNA of a dog's saliva into these Take Me to the Moon shirts.
Wow.
And they just cleanse every 7 seconds.
Now, how does it feel? Does it feel like dog slobber?
It feels real velvety. Like
cake?
Like velvet?
Red velvet cake?
Yeah, it's kind of a cake sensation.
Like a good nitro craft beer.
Real velvety smooth. And get a load of this. There's an app on your phone where you can change the hue of the shirt. You can just dial it in, the little color wheel.
All right, now,
I want to be sunflower yellow today.
Now tell me this. Can you put your own custom images? Could you put Sonic the Hedgehog flipping everybody off on your shirt or something?
Yeah, you can get any image that you want on there.
Here's what I want, and we should go around and say what you want on your shirt. I just want my face, but much larger, on my shirt.
I want
with the same expression that I currently have.
I want pizza grease stains on my shirt.
Oh, nice.
Just beat the pizza to the punch.
That you can do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you, Josh.
Fuck pizza.
I would want like a GIF of
a GIF?
Skittles, like a big old pile of Skittles, and they're dancing around. The whole screen is filled with Skittles, and they're just going crazy, like a stop motion.
Oh.
So like active GIF cycling on your shirt.
If we can do GIFs, then I want the white guy blinking meme on it. You've seen that one?
Mm-mm.
Good. I don't know that one.
Jeez, guys, get on the internet.
No.
So then now the way they tackled the having to not take it on or off is when you decide you're done, when you're going to bed, whatever, you hit a little button on the app and it flips up and folds into itself folds into itself and into a little tiny briefcase. And then the briefcase you put in your mouth on the side between your gums and your teeth, and you just stick it in there, and it's real comfy, and it's just tiny and fits right in.
Wow. It could also be used as a retainer. Yeah, you get your teeth molded.
It's not that big. It's real tiny.
Okay.
Your little suitcase.
That sounds great, and you never lose it because it's right in your mouth hole.
Right.
Great.
So thanks so much to Take Me to the Moon shirt technology for this week's great ad. And our listeners can, well, these shirts last forever, so they can't give you a free sample, but they can give you a discount using offer code. Stefan, what was that offer code?
It was Ding Dong, the witch is dead.
Yeah, great.
Excellent. Thank you. Take Me to the Moon float shirt technology. I'm going to put one of those on right now. I'm wearing it already. I bought mine. They're expensive.
Really
They're
fast.
$9,000.
What?
But but it's the only shirt you'll ever need.
You should have led with that piece of information. Or maybe not. I don't know. All right, Stefan's got the banjo now, so it's getting real.
That's just going to get sad. I like sad banjo.
Here, wait, hand me that guitar.
It's got some Sufjan vibes there.
I'll get it. I'll get the guitar.
I went down to the Awana Club, but I forgot the Sparky doll in my mother's car. My mother has cancer, but I'm a little boy and I don't understand it. Chicago. I spent the night in a van with my friend down by the river, and we meant to cook little smokies on the fire, but we forgot. These are some good-ass Sufjan riffing lyrics. Man, I'll bet some listeners thought I was Sufjan for a second there. They transmogrify into the old SS. This is getting too sad. Let's happy it up. Let's go to a major. Let's go to get some G's and C's and D's in there. Ooh, now I'm feeling good. Feeling the gladness of the spirit filling my bones. Keep it going.
I don't even want to go there.
I don't want to go to major.
Oh, shit.
One time, Stefan came with our friend Andrew and visited me at Sonic when I worked there.
You worked at Sonic.
Oh, yeah.
And I was the one who listened on the headset and took orders, and Stefan and our friend turned up that song, Back in Black, and in between every ba-da-da, they screamed a meow. Like, meow, ba-da-da, meow, ba-da-da, meow. It was a good, it lifted my spirits that night. That was a terrible job.
Yeah, Sonic doesn't seem like a place you should end up.
Was that the worst job you've ever had?
Yes. Yes,
Great.
it was.
Did you get free tots?
Only discounted. Although here's the thing, you could whip up your own, you could have unlimited free drinks.
Oh.
Not free ice cream, like not a shake or anything, but you could whip up your own drink. And my first shift, I got sick that night because I drank a Route 44 ocean water and had eaten like a ton of maraschino cherries.
Wow.
Because they're just right there, a big old tub of them. And so I was like, hell yeah, I'm getting in on some of these garnishes. Not good. Ocean water, that's disgusting. Ugh.
Do you guys ever get on people about
Do I what?
saying things differently, like the whole caramel thing? Does that get you going, or do you just let it slide?
Andy just did that to me last episode with inundated.
Oh yeah, that's a little weird.
And inundated. And real estate.
So you just said, what was it? What kind of cherries?
Oh yeah, I might have pronounced that wrong. Maraschino? How do you say it?
So this is,
I don't know what that
I read
is.
like a 7 page paper on the pronunciation of it because my mom always said like it was maraschino. Yeah, which sounds
really wrong.
Really wrong. But if you go on the internet, like it's a made up word, so there's no like root to it.
It seems like it should be like a county in California or something.
Yeah, Maraschino County.
Yeah, is that not already a thing?
It is now.
I just made a county in California, guys.
So the correct way supposedly to say it is maraschino?
No. There's no like there's like no correct way to say it.
Like you could just
it's
whatever anyone says
ladies'
is
choice.
correct.
Sadie Hawkins dance.
Maraschino?
Sophie's choice. Just choose one.
What was okay? Something like that came up just recently. Another word that is, like the place. It's kind of a vacation spot. Ibiza.
Ibiza.
But it's spelled. That's how it's spelled, but you pronounce it Ibiza.
What?
Which makes no sense.
Yeah,
it's true.
I don't.
Don't
how
worry
do
about
you give me your source?
Dark Knight Returns.
What?
Dark Knight Rises. That's true. That's Christian Bale says it. This is a great podcast. My goodness.
Sorry.
Ibiza.
Yeah, stuff like that's interesting. Here's one that gets me that's sort of not the same. Is when people say I'm nauseous when what they mean is I'm nauseated. But when someone says I'm nauseous, that's an incorrect usage of the word and it bothers me. Emmy does it all the time because she's often nauseated. But that's not the time or place to correct her and be like, oh, do you mean while your stomach's hurting, do you mean you're nauseated?
Yeah, because Emmy's a wise woman. You don't want to.
Okay, hey guys, listen to this, okay? Here, how to pronounce this word.
Ibiza.
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 That didn't help me at all.
No. Ibiza.
Is that a YouTube video?
Yeah.
This is how you pronounce Ibiza.
Yeah, it didn't.
Today we're going to talk about how to
You already get a guy who sounds weird trying to get you to show it. Boy.
This is how you say kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope.
Stefan, you should start a YouTube channel where you're just like, you can't speak correctly, but you tell everybody how to pronounce all the words.
Hey, all you idiots, listen up. We're going to talk about how to say Marascano. Marascano Shiraz.
Oh, boy.
So I was wondering, for both of you guys, you both take your music very seriously.
I don't take mine seriously.
Be serious.
You don't listen willy-nilly. What would you say?
No. I don't listen to Willie Nelson or Nelly.
Okay, sorry. Willy-nilly. Oh, man, if they did a compilation together or like a...
Willy-Nelly?
Yeah, willy-nilly.
That would be awesome.
What would you say in this... The album in and of itself doesn't have to be a great album, but what would you say is like one of your most listened to albums of all time? And
wow. Do you have an answer, Josh?
Well, I know what my mind goes to immediately, but I don't want to say that one. I want to do.
You can do a couple. You can do 2 or 3. It's 2017. Trump's president. You just do whatever you want.
For sure, Dredge LCLO I've listened to a ton over and over, but not so much recently. But boy, I mean, Mogwai, Happy Songs, that one, I would have worn the vinyl out if I'd had the record.
Right. I'm trying to think of the period of life where I was actually listening to albums more, and it was more a long time ago. I think one of them for me would have to be White Pony by Deftones, just because of how much I listened to it in high school and still listen to it to this day.
Yeah.
That would for sure be one. And if we're talking about Dredge albums, I think I may have potentially listened to Catch Without Arms more than El Cielo, just because it's lighter driving summer music, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Right.
Those are my answers.
I pulled up my Spotify because I want to think of more. I know there are some others that I've just spent a ton of time with.
Like
Stefan,
Alan
what are
Parsons
yours?
Project, Kraftwerk.
Well, I feel like
Devo.
they are going to be old from a younger period before I knew Alan Parsons.
I probably listened to I Am Hollywood from He Is Legend a lot.
Yeah, there's like a few albums.
Mama's Big Ones by Cass Elliot.
What
Mama
the hell?
Cass. Just kidding.
There's like a few albums I listened to a ridiculous amount, but part of it was because at one point I only had like 6 CDs and that's all I listened to.
Right.
But like one album that I always go back to and enjoy every time is Freelance Whales, Weather Vanes, like that.
Yeah, that's you.
That album I could do over and over. And like,
Can you play any of it on the banjo right now?
I
That
don't.
band or I feel like I've never heard of that.
Freelance Whales.
Well,
baby.
they only released a couple albums, and their second album was not that good. Their first album, or at least the first album that I know of, was amazing front to back, and I just put it on whenever. And also Death Cab, like Plans and Transatlanticism, like I listened to a ridiculous amount, and Give Up, like Postal Service.
Postal, yeah.
Freelance Whales is a good transition from Postal Service. Like there's some good parallels between the two. Freelance Whales is a little more dreamy and out there, but I really like them. So I was also wondering too, and this maybe falls into like a little bit of the creative category of Andy, you doing music and me kind of dipping my toes in every once in a while. There seems to be a push with like the upcoming generation. So I would say everyone from like who's really engaging with music from like 12 to 25, the next generation coming up doesn't really seem to listen to albums front to back. It's just like single songs. And like maybe the question I have, and maybe this doesn't apply to you as much as it would to me, is like,
Right.
like what's the point of making an album if no one's going to listen to the whole thing? You know what I mean? Like if the market is moving more towards singles,
Right.
why?
Well, that's what a lot of the rap guys do now. They just throw a single up on SoundCloud and it gets 3 million plays. And they keep doing that, seems like.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I feel like I just kind of ignore that trend.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even specifically with this new album I have coming out, there's like, I was like, I'm going to put a 14-minute song on there. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I don't, it helps me to write songs to think about it in context of other songs. So whatever, so I can't, it doesn't really help me much to think about. Well, and that's under the assumption that I'm going in to write an album, which maybe should be done away with if what you're talking about is going to be more the case in the future. But yeah, I don't know. I just like, I don't think I'll be able to get away from not writing that way.
Yeah.
Albums and listening that way, you know, just because there's so many albums that I love that are better because of the way the album flowed and the way the songs go together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there will certainly always be people who do absorb entire albums that way and listen the proper way, but certainly the younger generation is the ones that are 13 and already have a smartphone, or even younger than that. It's their attention span is being just already brought up in such a distracted way that they probably only listen to the first 30 seconds of even their favorite songs and then skip to the next one just to get to the hook and then skip it, like not even a full 3-minute song.
Yeah, and they're going to be driving like basically the musical economy or demands like in the next 15 years. You know, like they're going to be the ones that are calling the shots because they're the ones that are paying and listening, or however they're taking it in. So
Hey, I just remembered a thought I had that's somewhat related, but not really.
let's do it.
Do you guys think that driverless cars will be the death of podcasts?
No.
No.
Why not?
Not I see what you mean. What do you think people will do instead if their
They'll
cars
watch a video. They'll watch a movie.
Watch
Just
Netflix, yeah.
do it all the time in their cars. Like Just be like, now I have all this time to have sex. Like,
I mean,
This
seriously,
is an interesting thought.
because the times I listen to podcasts most are when I'm in a situation where I can't be looking at a thing, and we'll be removing a huge part of that that part of life, you know.
Yeah, I don't know, because again, I'm getting into generational stuff where that's like, I think our generation has adopted podcasts like with open arms and has really embraced it. We're here freaking doing one, talking about it. So super meta. But I mean, at least for, I would say like 20, 30 years, they'll still be prevalent and relevant. And I think people will still be consuming them. Probably not. My guess is with podcasts in general is, you know, give it another like 5 to 10 years, there's going to be giants and then like nobody else. Like there's going to be people that just go above and beyond. 'Cause it's like, okay, we've heard white guys talk about this, and this, and we've heard counterculture stuff on this, and this. And it's like, I think there's like the strong are going to survive, and it's not necessarily going to be a financial thing, but it's just going to be that there's, I think interest will drop out for long form conversation, but
See, I don't know if I agree with that. I think the long form conversation is the reason they're doing well and probably will do well. I just am curious about, like, it seems like we're constantly removing things in our life that we have to focus on, if that makes sense. And I wonder what that means for art and entertainment, because, you know, everyone's going back to unlimited data plans on their phones now. And so imagine getting into a driverless car and having 20 minutes where you don't have to look at the road.
Yeah.
Where you used to. Like, what are you going to do? I don't know. You're going to play your Nintendo Switch or whatever.
It'll be like the Nintendo Switch 4 at that point. But.
Sure. But I just don't know. It's like where... I don't know. That's where my mind went. It's like, maybe podcasts won't be a thing once driverless cars come around.
Well, and will driverless cars be like living rooms? We just have like a TV and like a desk and Wi-Fi, and you just basically get into a moving living room to go to a virtual concert at a fake venue.
Yeah, that probably will happen. Something like that.
I don't want to give up driving.
What if we could have like RVs have like bathrooms in them? If we could have like little toilets in cars, you could just do a road trip and never have to get out. You wouldn't even have to look outside.
Oh, I don't want this life. I love road trips so much.
Just pee in a bucket 20 times and you're in
and
New York.
I love being at little tiny gas stations in the middle of nowhere. I love all of that, and it's all going to go away. And my fantasy about being a truck driver is going to go away because all those jobs are going to go away.
Yeah, it's funny because that's like, seems like a job that some people would settle for, and that's your dream job.
It's like my goal, to be a truck driver. Yeah. What do you?
Yeah, all these things are built around basically us being able to do things more efficiently or faster, but that also means we're adding in extra things. You know? Like even something as simple as a washing machine or a microwave. It's like, I need to make food faster. I need to get my clothes cleaned faster. I can't like wash them in a bucket and hang them outside. So, and you know, technology, those are simple things that now we're so used to having.
I heard an ad on and I never thought about it this way before, but on another podcast, I heard an ad for Audible. It was like, you know, I don't have time to, you know, sit down and read books anymore. So the solution to the problem is Audible, so I can listen to books when I'm doing other things. And my brain was like, well, maybe the solution to the problem is changing your life so that you can read books. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we're just automatically like, oh, I can just cram more shit into my life with this new online service, and now life is better, right? And it also seems like we've demonstrated that that's not even the case. Like, more online things, technological things that help our life work faster is not better. At least I don't think so.
Yeah. And it's in the terms of reading, it seems to be about prioritizing what matters to you.
Yeah.
you know, taking time to read is prioritizing. But I'm sure some people heard that ad and they're like, hell yeah, I don't have enough time in my life, and I'm doing that. Anyway, sorry, Stefan, you were going to say something?
Well, here's a question for you, Josh. If, like, let's say culture is moving towards, and this is just based on kind of the trajectory of this conversation, this might not be entirely true, but culture's moving towards like quicker, faster, more efficient. Does that, like with you pursuing authorship, does that concern you at all? Not that I want to add more worries to your bucket of worries, but like, have you thought about that at all? If people just maybe not consuming like printed media or like reading a book, whether it be on a tablet or whatever, 20 years down the road?
I honestly don't worry about that. I think books will always be a niche that I think even print books will be a niche for a long time that people continue to read in that way. And I don't know, the only thing that might be different is that it just might have to translate, speaking of Audible, to an audiobook I think since there's more writing, more things are being turned into TV shows or movies now too. And then that kind of has a backwards way of people will go buy the book of the movie they just saw. So I don't know. I think it'll always be around. It's a little bit of a bummer because in general, I think less people are reading by far, but I mean, reading used to be, it was like the original television, or it's like the original radio, the original podcasts. Like that used to be one of the only mediums of entertainment. And now there are so many. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to you.
All right. We'll see you next week, Josh.
Right.
Let us know how it goes.
Yeah. I'm not worried about that. Here's something regarding reading that I don't know. I don't know what the point of this thought is, but just I worry a lot about retaining my memory, and that seems to come out most in thinking about books where, on my bookshelf, there are books that I can pull out and look at, and I know I've read it front to back, but I have no recollection of what it was. I can remember probably the basic premise, but character names, what happened. And that's a weird thought, and I don't like that. But also, what would really be the point of me remembering it perfectly necessarily?
Yeah, so you can have the off chance,
because it's all. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I was just going to say, so you have like the off chance of having a small conversation with someone who read the book and also remembered some random plot points, but that's maybe it, like,
I guess, yeah. I think I don't like the idea of just gorging on content and like absorbing a book, and then it only matters for that moment, and then it's gone from my memory and I'm on to the next one. Like I don't want to be that kind of person, and I don't want media to be that useless to me or like without value.
Trivial, you might say.
Yeah, that's a good word. Which is kind of why, like we've talked about off of the show, I can't watch shows that make me feel like the seconds of my life are ticking away. I mean, and I won't name anything specific, but it's just
name something.
Everything has
24.
to be. Everything has to feel like I'm getting something of worth out of it. It doesn't have to be serious or poetic or artful. It could be funny, but just for that time and place, like I need this to not just be a waste of my life. I hate the idea of killing time, literally killing time, ticking down these momentary hours that we have. I don't like that. So anyway, that was a big thought, but at least on the memory piece, do you guys think about stuff like that?
Yes, that freaks me out too. The idea of losing my memory. And I think mostly for when I'm older, if that makes sense. Like here and now, I know that I'm spacey and I'm going to forget things. And and I know we talked about it before on the podcast, but meditation helped me so much with memory, and not necessarily retaining a bunch of random facts about a book, but just remembering conversations I had and like being able to be present and retaining and absorbing like as it's happening. And it also like caused me to slow down a little bit when I'm reading and like visualize far more instead of blowing through and trying to put the pieces together so I can get through the book to get to the next thing or whatever. And but yeah, like the idea of like losing my memory, especially like bigger things. Like I realized this was happening when I was like early 20s. I had friends that I was great friends with in high school. They would share stories with me and I didn't remember them at all. And I was, you know, I was like you, Josh, where it's like I didn't like party or sleep around or like do drugs and drink a whole bunch. So I was there. I was sober for all of it, but I don't remember it. Like, and that really started to get to me on a deep level. And that's when I tried to start taking actions to help my memory. And I mean, just I think keeping your brain engaged, like there's like keeping it balanced, like not overstimulated or understimulated can be really valuable. But not that I have it figured out at all. I'm still terrified to death of you know, getting Alzheimer's when I'm older. It's just like, I mean, it really that scares me. So I mean, I do get that. But
yeah.
And one more thing real quick, when you were talking about like wasting time watching a movie, and Andy and I were talking about this a little bit earlier today when we were hanging out for lunch. One thing that's like really helped me gauge if I'm should be watching something is just based on how it makes me feel. And just kind of letting it be what it is. And if it makes me feel like anxious or scared or happy or thoughtful, like if it gives me any type of feeling, then it has value. Like period. It doesn't necessarily need to be the deepest thing or the funniest thing. It doesn't have to be the best. But if it makes me feel anything, I think that's how I gauge whether or not the media I consume has value. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I feel like I can see both sides though. Like, like it's a good impulse to say I want to get something out of everything, but I don't know. I feel like there is a part of me that sees value in like, hey, I need to wind down right now. I need something dumb. I don't have to think about it. But with the caveat being like, that's not all you should do with your entire day or life.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
But so I
would say that still goes along with that's what is valuable to you in that moment, and that's what you need is
as long as you're cognizant of like
to laugh,
like I'm here because I need like a recharge moment or something, and not just like this is what I do with my life. I watch dumb things all the time or something. So yeah, I'm with you. I think we should wrap this up here.
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
Should we go out with a song?
Let's do another little ditty over there.
What key are you in?
A little jamboree.
G.
I love it.
This is a song I wrote. Let me find it. Your sunshine, no only sunshine. You make me happy when sky. I can't find the key. It's good enough.
I want some improvised lyrics.
Okay. All right. We'll just use it. Here we go.
Whoa.
I'll beat you over the head with a baseball bat if you look at me like that again, you punk ass son of a bitch, you dickweed. And if you wanna say my name again to my face, you better be fucking ready to fight me, 'cause you're a turd and everybody hates you. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray.
That was beautiful.
That sure was a show, Rick.
I think we got the stinger.
Here's a good one.
Oh, go
let's
for
do
it.
the let's do
The
the
show's
Pete
over.
Holmes thing. Let's do the Pete Holmes thing where we fake laugh until we actually laugh. Until we start laughing for real. So on the count of 3, do a fake laugh, pretend laugh. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Man, it's not making me.